works in this crummy school.
We're leaving in 5 minutes anyway.
Quit it, Josh. This is no time for that.
Come on. We need to record our investigation, don't we?
Quiet, someone's there.
It's locked.
It's okay. It's just the janitor.
But how are we supposed to get out now?
Obscure, developed by Hydrovision and released by Dreamcatcher Interactive in 2004 for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. While staying late after school, Kenny discovers an old house hidden nearby his school. He's led into the basement, which goes even further underneath the house. Down below, he discovers an old laboratory and a teenager held captive. He releases him, but then strange, bizarre creatures begin coming out of the darkness. The captive teenager is slaughtered, and Kenny attempts to escape, but he is locked inside. The next day, Shannon, Kenny's sister, wonders what happened to her missing brother, and together with his girlfriend Ashley and their friends Josh and Stan, they stay after hours and investigate what happened to Kenny. Obscure is a third-person survival horror action game where the player must fight off monsters, find items, solve puzzles, and make their way further into the school to solve the mystery behind this incident. You play the prologue as Kenny, getting used to the mechanics of the game, and then when the main game starts, you have a choice between Shannon, Ashley, and Josh, and later on you encounter Stan. You can switch between the teams when you arrive at a gathering point, and each teenager has their own specific ability. Shannon will give you helpful hints about what to do next in the game. Ashley can perform a power attack that can do more damage to enemies. Josh will tell you if there's still items or things to do in a room. Stan can pick locks without the need of a special item. And Kenny has the ability to sprint, making him run faster and getting away from enemies easier. You can take two teams with you at any time, and if you plug in a second controller, a second player can play along with you, whichever teammate you chose. This was unique to Obscure at the time, as there really were no other co-op survival horror games. One of the main objectives of Obscure is to keep all your teens alive. The teens can die, and if they die, they stay dead permanently. The outcome of the game depends on which teens are still left alive, and the best ending would mean you keeping all 5 teenagers alive throughout the entire game. You have melee weapons and firearms in order to fight off the creatures, and also the creatures are weak against light, so you can knock out windows during the day, and some creatures will even die instantly at sunlight. You can also pick up flashlights to weaken the creatures to your weapons. Another neat feature with Obscure is the sticky tape feature. You find rolls of sticky tape throughout the game, and if you find a stray flashlight, you can tape it to a firearm so you don't have to keep switching back and forth between the flashlight and your gun. Melee combat in Obscure can sometimes be a problem, as you'll always take some cheap shots getting too close to the enemy. Keeping your distance with a firearm is always recommended, but, of course, ammo is very limited. You do find energy drinks and medkits hidden throughout the game in order to boost your health back up. And you also find little CDs, which are used to save the game whenever you want. For being released as a budget title, Obscure doesn't show it. It's actually a very, very good game, with some decent character models and great background graphics that have a lot of detail. The co-op gameplay helps it to stand out amongst other horror titles on the PS2 and the Xbox. And the story isn't too bad either. It reminds me a lot of those mid to late 90s teen horror movies like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. The characters are also very fun as well, and the game has a lot of hidden movie references to classic horror titles. Obscure spawned one sequel, which was just as successful as the first, and improved on the gameplay a lot. I only have one real gripe about Obscure, and that's the melee combat. Early on in the game you don't really have any firearms and you're forced to use baseball bats and metal bars, and getting too close to the enemy can cause a lot of unnecessary hits. And sometimes if you take a partner along with you, the AI isn't that intelligent, and always just kind of meander around and take hits. Other than that, Obscure is a very unique and very fun little horror title that I would recommend getting your hands on. Unfortunately, even though it was released as a budget title, it's kind of hard to come by now, and some people have asked for some pretty crazy prices for this game. But recently it was re-released on Steam, so if you have a PC, spend about $7 and pick this title up. It's worth it. Well guys, that's it for this episode of the 31 Games of Halloween. Please leave a like and a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and please share with your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for day 27 of the 31 Games of Halloween. Have a good night.
Mr. Freeman. The school's been
Why are you
invaded.
still here? Why aren't you at home?
The hallways are full of those things, and this time it's not my fault.